Pacer Nation, what is going on? Welcome back to your go-to Pacers podcast here, setting the pace. The Indiana Pacers take down the Boston Celtics 122-112. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The boys are heading to Vegas. Facci, are you going to be joining them?
I would love to, but Alex, for a night like tonight, I can't think of a more memorable regular season win. And I know this wasn't just your typical regular season game, but it was evident early on. This game meant everything to Indiana being on national television and trying to avenge a 51-point loss to Boston earlier in the season. The Pacers are now handling business. When they see a team twice this year, they are getting it done. And this win tonight, this was a memorable one.
Games like tonight remind you how special this Pacers team can be, and that's why when they have losses to teams they should beat, it's frustrating. So that's why you've had an up and down year, but we got to just look at this game and say, wow, we got ourselves a performance from multiple different players, but we got to start out with the man that's having a superstar level year. Tyrese Haliburton has his first ever triple-double, the dagger 3 over Jaylen Brown. He just does it again. Wasn't even that loud in the fourth quarter, but all of a sudden comes to life, has a 4-point play, and it's like, okay, that's what Tyrese Haliburton does. He was drawing so much attention from the Celtics defense, but he was able to still be incredibly effective and figure things out. Your thoughts on Tyrese Haliburton's performance tonight?
I just think on the biggest stage, this was actually only the second time he's been on national television. His TNT debut, he did not disappoint. His first triple-double, but 0 turnovers. And that 4-point play with 1 minute and 33 seconds to go, when it was all tied up at 105 apiece, it was just massive. I did everything I could to not, wake up the whole neighborhood, let alone, my daughter. But that shot by Haliburton, that's what stars do when you need them most. And I just felt like to the NBA masses, this was the coming out party for Tyrese Haliburton to say, this man is a star.
He really is. And I think it's funny to see because we've been wanting a star for so long, and he is becoming that in front of our eyes. He is blossoming into that in front of us, and we're seeing it almost every game. He's had a huge stretch here the last 5 to 6 games, just putting out outrageous numbers out, but the fact that he was able to dish out 13 assists and commit 0 turnovers with the amount of pressure that he was dealing with the entirety of the night, that speaks volumes to the level of protector of the ball that he is. And I think that he just has done so many good things with this Pacers team and has elevated their play, their ceiling to a totally different level. Boston's a great team. They're without Kristaps Porzingis. This game is probably different if Porzingis is playing. It's different in terms of how the game is played, though, too. So I'm not going to discredit the Pacers for winning this without Boston having Porzingis. I don't want to do that. But I do want to say that this team, they came out, they took some of Boston's best punches early on, but they kept punching back. They didn't just get there and take those punches and get down by 50 points like we saw at the beginning of the year against Boston. They came back and they were fired up, and I say most of that credit has to go to, number one, the fans for being loud, being energetic, and bringing the juice tonight. And 2, the players for maturing in front of us and kind of showing how special they can be.
I was so jealous. I know you were at this game. The crowd looked amazing. The atmosphere, unreal. It gave you that feeling to say, the Pacers could get in the playoffs. The whole fan base will rally around them. This team, they have to get back to meaningful games because Indiana is such a special place when you have the team that could back it up. And on a night like tonight, the Pacers trailed by 7 at halftime. Things were not easy. Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they looked great in this game, but I think the Pacers really made them work. And this was a game that you wondered, could the Pacers win a game if they're not scoring 140 or 150 points? And tonight, they did it. They held the team to 112 points. Alex, the only time that they held the team to less and won, the Spurs with 111 points earlier in the year. It had been over about a month, but the 122 points, they're the second fewest that the Pacers have had in a win this year, dating back to when they had 121 against Cleveland over a month ago. So it showed that the Pacers were able to sacrifice a little offense tonight for some defense. And that's everything we've been asking for.
Totally agree. And the defense was spectacular tonight. There was obviously some moments there where they missed some assignments, but that's going to happen every game. You can't criticize every single play and be like, well, that's why we lost the game. No, there was a lot of times I felt like, especially in that first half, the Pacers went a little bit smaller and struggled getting the rebounds. They were getting dominated on the glass in
Oh
the
my
first half.
God,
And
that
I
was
thought,
bad.
this is not a good recipe for success. They were down by 7 at the half, and it felt like a blessing in disguise because they weren't shooting the ball very well from 2. Thankfully, Boston did a terrible job of getting to the free throw line in that first half. I think they had like 2 attempts, like when I looked when it was
2.
close to the end. And then I remember they were shooting like 21% from 3 in that first half, and I thought that's the reason we're in this game and our ability to protect the basketball, because at the half I think it was 8 turnovers or around there for Boston, and Indiana had like 2 or 3. So when you're able to protect the basketball and just they shot the ball pretty well, the Pacers did in the first half from 3, it kind of kept them in this one despite having some issues with the size. And I was kind of curious, what are your thoughts on the Pacers going small ball in this game, not playing Isaiah Jackson, obviously knowing Jalen Smith is out, not playing Isaiah Jackson at the backup 5, going smaller with Obi Toppin and at times Aaron Nesmith?
I mean, I think Aaron Nesmith, you got to give him all the flowers in the world. That man battled tonight. I feel that Nesmith made everything tough on Tatum. And there was times that, Nesmith might not have gotten the stop, but he made the Celtics work for every single basket. And that charge that he had in this game was electric. I mean, that charge was something. For the Pacers going small, I think it worked. I mean, what real options did they have against the Celtics team that you try to do things a little bit different? They went with not only a smaller unit, but a smaller amount of players in this game. I mean, this was a team that basically only 7 Pacers played double-digit minutes tonight.
Gotcha.
So
I was trying to figure out what you meant by a smaller amount of players.
No, yeah,
Shortened rotation.
Shortened rotation of basically about 7, and McConnell got 9 minutes, and Nembhard got about 5.
Yeah.
But I felt like they went shorter size and a shorter rotation, and tonight it proved that it worked.
Yeah, I didn't think it was very good in the first half, to be honest with you. I was like, okay, we got to get Miles back in the game. When the Pacers took Miles out in the first quarter, the Celtics went on a 9-2 run. I was like, okay, that's not good. In the second quarter, when Miles came out, he was out for about 6 minutes in a row. It was like a 21-12 run. So you had like a 16-point swing there when Miles was not in the game, and I thought, okay, that's not good. So I was like, what are they going to do with these small ball lineups? But I do think that third quarter, when the Pacers were phenomenal, 37-23 was the scoring difference there. The Pacers small ball unit at the end of that quarter really kind of lit a spark for him. You had back-to-back threes from Buddy Hield and Bennedict Mathurin, and that 3 that Buddy Hield hit was so funny because T.J. McConnell gets blocked. Like, just takes a ill-advised shot. Not really sure what he was thinking, but, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Buddy Hield's right there. The block comes right back to Buddy. Buddy squares up and shoots it and drills it. I mean, Buddy Hield had a great game as well. Like, he was really efficient, had the best plus-minus of anybody on the team tonight, too, with like a plus 29, I believe it was. So, Buddy Hield, big-time performance from him tonight. And it was just one of those things. There's like a collective effort to get this team to where they needed to go. Look, we knew Tyrese had to get going in the third, and he did have a third quarter takeover once again. But in the fourth quarter, it was the Aaron Nesmith show. He scored 11 of his 14 points in that quarter. He was phenomenal, but not only as an offensive player, but as a defensive player, like you mentioned, making things hard for whoever he was guarding, even if there were times when I had to tweet about it, got out of position, playing a little bit too up in their space. But I'm not going to argue about that because I think the results proved, okay, what he did for the majority of that time he was out there was very positive.
Aaron Nesmith, it felt like this game meant more to him given his ties to Boston. It's like he was battling with Jaylen Brown. He was battling with Tatum. There was times that, he did the, you're too small when he had a basket. And that was awesome to see. I loved the chippiness, but it's like he really wanted to stick it to Boston, and I love when things just mean a little bit more, when that dish is just a little bit colder because you're serving up revenge, and I feel that is what Aaron Nesmith did. The Pacers improved. That the stat of the week, they're 7-0 now when Nesmith gives you double figures.
I was telling people tonight in the building.
I love it. Get the ball to Nesmith. Because when you do, the Pacers are winning. But your point about Buddy, I want to give Buddy credit because we've been a little bit tough on him because he's been in a slump. But Buddy, like you mentioned, highest plus minus on the team. Well, Buddy started out this game 2 for 6. He actually had a three-pointer that missed so bad it got stuck on top of the hoop. What did he do after that? He went 5 for 5 to finish the game. And that last basket, was it necessary? No. Did I love it? Yes. That three-pointer at the end of the game, as the buzzer sounded, was just like the final sprinkles on top, the icing on the cake, whatever you want to say. That just solidified this win. Buddy Hield was huge for the Pacers tonight.
Yeah, that last three, it was Lance-esque, right?
It really was.
And I think he kind of has that in him, but he's a little bit more mature, I guess you could say is the right way to put it. Because Buddy Hield, like, this is big to him. He's never had like a playoff environment in the NBA, and neither has Tyrese. So these guys were just hungry and they wanted to feel that environment. And I know Rick Carlisle talked about it in the post-game press conference about 2 or 3 times. He kept referring to it as a playoff atmosphere or a playoff game. I think he even kind of forgot that this wasn't a playoff game. He was like, yeah, the crowd was great in the playoff game. And I was like, okay, he didn't realize it was just an in-season tournament game. But I love the fact that it mattered. It's December 4th and we're sitting here talking about this game. Like, it's significant. It is. But at the end of the day, it only counts for one win on the record. So it gets them to Vegas, though. Obviously, I know there's a lot more behind it. They get more money and stuff like that. But just an overall solid performance from Buddy Hield. And this is why he's been playing so much, even despite the shot making not being there, because once he gets it going, Facci, he is deadly. Let's talk about that 3 that he hit after Tyrese hit the 4-point play, gave the Pacers a 4-point lead. The next Pacers possession that they scored on, Buddy Hield hits a 3, and you just felt like that was the dagger in the heart of the Celtics fans, because a 4-point lead it's good, but it's not great. A 7-point lead with about a minute left, that's tough to overcome.
It really was, and I just love that the Pacers never looked back after that Haliburton 4-point play. But yeah, just like you mentioned, it's not going to be enough. Other players stepped up when you needed them, and basketball, it's a game of runs, and the Pacers went on quite the run during that stretch to really put the Celtics away. I mean, I got a little bit nervous towards the end when people started, we started shooting some free throws and missed, 1 or 2, and the Celtics were cutting it to like about 5 or 6. But this game tonight, I mean, collectively as a unit, 7 Pacers scored in double figures. The 7 that played, double-digit minutes, and you needed that. That was the recipe against Miami tonight. It worked even with Haliburton, because obviously you're not going to take down the Celtics without Haliburton. But when you talk about Rick saying this is a playoff game, it felt as close to a playoff game as could possibly be. And I just felt like the way the Pacers came out of the tunnel and responded in that second half, it was huge. This was a team that was shooting 35% at halftime. And they come out there, that third quarter that you talked about, I mean, that was one of the finest quarters the Pacers have played this season. 37 points. They only give up 23 to Boston. Haliburton saves 19 points for the second half. I just felt like, and when you're mentioning, hey, some of the money involved before, look, they wanted respect. That money also helps a lot, because there's 10 Pacers on this team making $3 million or less, and the prize offering, it's $500,000 per player. This is huge, but the respect that they gained tonight, that is gonna last a while, because now all eyes start to feel like, do you see what the Pacers are doing on a nightly basis? And tonight was the reason why you want to have that opportunity for another nationally televised game. That's exactly what the Pacers were able to do. We acquired one more, and we want to make it count.
Well, I think the style of play the Pacers play with, too, is going to make them more fun and make the league kind of embrace them a little bit more, because Tyrese Haliburton's a fun player to watch.
Oh,
and this Pacers team plays a really fun style. Like, I get it. The big markets are going to draw the attention of a lot of fans. It's just how it works in the NBA. But, this in-season tournament has been great for smaller market teams like Indiana, like New Orleans, like Sacramento. These are teams that really don't get the opportunity to shine like they do, and now they're getting it and they're taking advantage of it. So kudos to them. There's a lot of different ways I could continue to go on with our conversation about this recap, but I would be remiss if we don't talk a little bit about our veterans, Miles Turner and Bruce Brown. Obviously, the first half was not a great half for Tyrese Haliburton. He talked about that after the game and said that he was out of breath, and he was really struggling to catch his wind because of the sickness that he had in Miami. And he said there were some lingering effects. So they gave him an inhaler at halftime, and that's the first time he's ever used an inhaler, and it kind of helped him get his breath back. But I felt like the Pacers only being down 7, there was a lot of guys that contributed, but Miles Turner and Bruce Brown were the ones kind of setting the tone early on. Miles Turner and Bruce Brown, I think they had like the first 13 points of the game for the Pacers. Maybe Ty had a 2 in there or something like that. But those two guys, I felt like really put the weight of this pressure on their shoulders and said, guys, look, we've been here before. Bruce Brown obviously just won a championship. Miles Turner has played in a lot of playoff games with the Pacers, obviously been in 2 or 3, maybe even 4 series, if I'm not mistaken, but I can't remember all of them. It's just, this was an opportunity for the Pacers to, like I said, have that big moment, but those guys kind of carried the weight until Tyrese was able to kind of take over the game. But I just want to give them a shout out, because I know you look at their stats, like it's not great numbers in terms of field goal percentage, 30% for Bruce Brown, 43.8 for Miles, but I felt like they were very impactful in this game.
No, they were, and I got really nervous when Bruce Brown picked up that 4th foul, because I thought he was playing well when he had 3 fouls. It was like, okay. I mean, I tweeted it out. I was like, Bruce has 3 fouls, didn't even stay out of foul trouble. Like, maybe I jinxed it. I don't know. He picked up his 4th foul by the time I hit send on that tweet, and I was like, oh, this is going to be tough.
Yeah,
because this is easily where Boston could push ahead, and the Pacers were able to weather the storm. So, yeah, for Turner, I mean, look, the Pacers were atrocious on the glass. But Turner did give you 10 boards. He gave you 10 boards. Tyrese gave you 10. It's like I was really nervous, and I felt that Miles, finishes a plus 22 in the game, 17 and 10. I mean, he absolutely great point giving those guys their flowers. They might not have been the most dominant Pacers tonight, but they were critical in a game where you needed everybody to really step up and give you everything they got. And I think both players did. And for Bruce Brown, I think he had 3 steals in this game, 8 rebounds himself. He's a playmaker with 4 assists. There was a lot of little things that Bruce Brown did, and he contested on defense. At times I saw him battling with Tatum. He's given up, 4 or 5 inches, to Jason Tatum, but still in there fighting. I love to see it.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a video that went out where they were talking about how the Celtics were trying to target Tyrese Haliburton one-on-one and get him in a mismatch, which is going to happen. But I think you have to realize, like, Jason Tatum is like 6'8", 210 pounds. Tyrese is 6'5", 185. So he's given up a lot of size there in terms of weight and height. And I thought it was great that the Pacers were able to come over and try to help get the ball out of Tatum's hands at the time. I know they were double teaming some, but when they left Tyrese on that island, it didn't work out for him. So that sucks. Obviously, you got to work on that, I think, as a team, just being more attentive to details. But, Rick Carlisle talked about that stretch where T.J. McConnell really was impactful in the third quarter. I thought the T.J. McConnell first quarter minutes were not good. I was like, please get him out of the game. Feels like he's pushing a little bit too much. I don't like his size with the Celtics size and how they play. But in that third quarter, you got to give him credit, because he did have that nice footwork move where he was able to score over Cornet, and then he got the steal that led to the Buddy Hield dunk. So, we're on the veteran topic. Like, McConnell's been in these type of games too. So maybe that's why Rick decided to ride with him over Nembhard. Obviously went to Nembhard in the end of the second quarter, but I thought that was kind of tough to put him in that spot as well. Not really being in the rotation, kind of thrusting him in there and having him just jump right in with like 4 minutes left in the 4 minutes and 51 seconds, I think, left in the second quarter. So a little tough spot there for Nembhard. But, McConnell had a nice moment there in the third quarter, and I think that was part of the energizing that happened for that run to go into the fourth quarter with a 7-point lead.
I gotta give McConnell his due, because when we talk about McConnell, he provides a spark. He was the spark plug in that moment. There was that span. If you looked at the box score and you just took a look and you said, what are you talking about? McConnell went 1 of 5. It's like we mentioned his block. Him getting blocked led to a Buddy 3. But then also the assists, it was just like everything he did was like he drew a foul. And then it was just like he had the assist. Like he could have had a fast break basket, but he gave it a Buddy for a basket. And I just felt like he was making it a few minutes. He impacted, I want to say, maybe 4 straight possessions. He had his fingerprints over those possessions in some sort of way. And I think that Rick played his minutes perfectly, because then it didn't become too much McConnell after that. I don't even really remember seeing him. I don't think he logged any time in the fourth quarter.
Nope.
I don't believe. I think he,
Tyrese
after
played
that,
all 12 minutes.
After that run, we didn't see McConnell again, and I thought he gave us just what we needed to really get that run going in the third quarter. So when people say, like, why does McConnell get in there? That is exactly why, because he's one of the guys that can actually impact a game in just a few minutes.
He's an energizer. There's no other way of putting it. That's what he does. He's like the little energizer bunny, and he just goes in there and he just provides a spark when you need it the most. And, he might not always do it every night, but at least you're going to get someone that's going to play hard and try his best. So, it was an interesting decision. I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see Nembhard get the call early on, because I do think he is a better defender, even if people want to disagree with me on that. We can take that and talk about that another time. But, that was awesome for him there. But one last guy that we really haven't touched on, and that's Ben Mathurin. Ben Mathurin in this game, there were some moments, obviously the shooting wasn't great. He got lost on defense a few different times, but that's pretty typical for a Mathurin game. I will say this, though. He was really special at certain times in this game scoring the basketball. And I know in the first half he hit a three in front of the Celtics bench. And after he hit it, he looked at them and said something. And Sam Cassell, who was a big-time trash talker in his day, stood up and started barking back at him. Okay, so Sam Cassell's barking back at Ben Mathurin, and I know O'Shea Brissett's on the Celtics bench, so he was chirping. I think when Aaron Nesmith got called for the foul on Jason Tatum, where he kind of like faded away and maybe got his arm at the top, like when he fouled him, it was a questionable call. O'Shea was over there, harassing Nesmith, saying, "Oh, you got him, you got him, you got him." So I will just say this: I love that, and I think it was great when Mathurin hit the three on the left side. I think it was the third quarter, and he pulled out the bow and arrow. And Luke Cornett was looking at the ref, begging for a technical foul. It was just little things like that. And then when the Celtics called a timeout, Mathurin goes to center court, lifts his hands up and starts egging the crowd on, like, come on, get louder, get louder. And so I just love seeing Ben kind of like relish for these moments. And I'm hoping that we can continue to see him do that. Obviously, 4-7 from three is a big-time improvement from Mathurin.
No, it really is. And just like you said, moments. I felt like this wasn't, Mathurin dominating the game, but I felt like when he scored, the Pacers needed it. And it happened here and there. And 16 points off the bench, it's nothing to overlook. I mean, every now and then when Mathurin has a bad game, everybody's like, trade him. I'm tired with him. Those 16 points off the bench, the Pacers needed every single one of them. I really felt that, like, when he hit a three, they were big threes. So tonight, you got everything you could have hoped for and more. There was a moment. There was this one little moment. And I started to say, you know what, maybe if we lose a close one at Boston, we've shown an improvement. And then as the game went on and we started going on a run, I can't believe I was willing to almost settle for a close loss as improvement for a 51-point loss. This was the night that I tell you, when living out of market, no one that I focuses on the Indiana Pacers. When the Pacers do something big on national television or they pull a big win, I get all these texts from people who never pay attention to the Pacers, and that's when I gauge how we're really doing with the NBA masses. Tonight, my phone was flooding with people who never pay attention, who were just like, what a win, or wow, Haliburton's a star, or, way to take down Boston, all these things. And that's what you hope for the people who never watch Haliburton to realize he's so special, for the people who never watch the Pacers to realize this is not only a really fun team, this is a team that you have to start to take seriously, because they're pulling off big wins, they're making noise happen, and they don't have this small window. This is really the start of what could be something special. And a night like tonight just makes you realize, like, when we get that next piece or so, the sky's the limit.
A win against Boston at home when the stakes couldn't be higher. Again, a win on the road without Tyrese Haliburton against the Miami Heat. A win against Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey in Philadelphia. A win against Cleveland, a team that's been up and down this year, but a team that has played the Pacers well at home in the in-season tournament. A comeback win against Atlanta when you were down by like 13, 20 points at one point, and Tyrese Haliburton drops a crap load of points in the third quarter, and I think it's 26 points in the third quarter, a franchise record. The Pacers drop 100 and 57 points that game. They get that victory. The Pacers have continued to they beat the Bucks at home. Right?
I was about to say, don't forget about that win against Milwaukee.
Because good to see Milwaukee tomorrow or on Thursday.
That you could overlook this year.
I'm just saying they've had some big time wins, and that's what gets you excited because, look, Rick Carlisle said it. The best thing about getting to the in-season tournament next round or, the quarterfinal round against Boston is they have to play the better teams now. And it puts them up to the challenge of, okay, how good are we really? And so the Pacers' ability to come out and beat the better teams, to me, it's just, okay, look, you can't say this team is, a fluke or they're just getting hot. No, I think you can say they're a really good team that's capable of winning on any given night. Their specialty is their offense, right? But even when their offense wasn't clicking, they found a way to win, and it was just a will to win. And I think that you could see Rick Carlisle was coaching his butt off tonight. I was impressed with just how many different adjustments were made. They talked about what Jenny was doing with Coach Jim Boylan, and then you had Mike Weiner doing some different things in terms of schematics and stuff like that. So this coaching staff was working tirelessly to try and attack the way they were going up against the Celtics. So I just got to tip my hat to the Pacers for their efforts tonight. It was awesome to see. And I want to tip my hats, finally, to our fan base. Thank you for showing up and making this game as important as the NBA wanted it to be. The arena was electric. It's probably one of the most electric buildings I've been in that I can remember, probably going back to when the Pacers were in the playoffs and I was in the building for those games. But it was fantastic, and I don't think I've ever really heard MVP chants for a player that is worthy of an MVP chant, and it felt real. So I'm just kind of speechless right now with what the Pacers were able to do tonight against Boston.
Watching this game, I muttered to myself, I gotta get back to Indiana. I mean, it really just felt like an environment that you had to be a part of. I mean, I'm wearing my 2000, Pacers Eastern Conference Championship shirt. Because it just makes me feel like, oh my God, please, on any night, anything could happen. When you talk about the coaching, the ways that the coaches have been, they've made adjustments so well. And I feel like in a playoff series where you get to play a team at least four times, that makes me feel like, hey, the Pacers can make the adjustments. But first, we got to get there. And tonight, awesome stuff. But the job ain't finished yet. We'll find out if it's Milwaukee or if it's New York. The fact that we already took down the Bucks makes me feel a smidge bit better. But if it's the Knicks, bring it on. Either way, I feel this Pacers team has come too far to back down, and they will be ready. And there's something different about this in-season tournament where it's not like you win an in-season tournament game and then you go and you play like Charlotte or Toronto or anything. Nope, this tournament's continuing, and I think that works to the Pacers' advantage.
For sure. I mean, this is going to be a tough game no matter who they play, whether it's Milwaukee or New York. New York's defense has always been problematic for the Pacers since Tom Thibodeau's been there. Julius Randle has really given the Pacers fits, but I do think that Obi Toppin could have some revenge game up his sleeve if they do play the New York Knicks, and going up against him in practice for the last couple of years, he probably does know some of his tendencies, as does Julius for Obi Toppin, I'm sure. So that could be a fun X's and O matchup. And then you got, of course, the Jalen Brunson versus Tyrese Haliburton narrative that's been kind of brewing ever since Wally Zerbiak's comments last year. And I think Pacer fans would just love to give it to the Knicks because the history is rich with them. Milwaukee, they're just a totally different juggernaut. They've got Giannis, who dropped 54 points on the Pacers, and we didn't see him with Damian Lillard. So that will make things incredibly different if he's there and available in the in-season tournament game in Vegas. So, yeah, it's going to be fun to kind of keep an eye on who wins on Tuesday night, but I think it's going to be fun regardless for the Pacers just to get that opportunity. So I will say this, though, getting that extra home game, the game they got tonight, instead of having to play on the road or something like that, it was meaningful, and I think that the crowd really did impact the win.
They really did, and that's why you have to protect home court because, the way this game was, they might not get this one done in Boston because another thing that we pointed out with Keith Smith, Boston was undefeated at home, a totally different team on the road. Yeah, that is now their fifth loss on the road, I believe. So it shows that was a big difference. And for the Pacers, they will, if Milwaukee wins, the Pacers will, they're traveling regardless, but they're going to Vegas. But it's not going to be easy. It's not. But I think that the Pacers have as good of a chance as they've had in years because this team they have it. They don't have all of it, but they have it. And I think that right now they want to build on this. And I don't think that we're going to be set up for a letdown. I think that the Pacers are going to give it everything they got. And I'm really, really excited for this next game of Pacers basketball. And I told you a couple games ago, I couldn't say that going into the Miami game without Tyrese. It felt like we were kind of slumping a bit going down. Woo, we're like a rocket on our back. We are taking off right now.
I love that, Facci. So as we close it out here, is it safe to say Tyrese Haliburton MVP of tonight's game?
Absolutely.
Okay. We've talked about Tyrese a lot. Now let's maybe get into maybe a different conversation. I think we'll probably both agree, though. The X factor for tonight's game was
Aaron Nesmith.
Aaron Nesmith. Yeah, that's how I felt too.
I think Aaron Nesmith, man. I mean, the 14 points, it's cool, whatever. Hey, nice. What he did on the defensive side of the ball, I just feel like the energy he brought, he battled for everything. He made every single possession as difficult as he could. I felt like even if Tatum made a shot, it was like Nesmith couldn't have played better defense. So tonight, he's my X factor.
You kind of push the points off a little bit, and I want to say that you have to give him the flowers, though, for the points that he made, because he hit big-time baskets in that fourth quarter when the game was close. I mean, we're punching back-and-forth baskets with Jaylen Brown and Tatum, and it's just like, man, are we going to win this game or not? Because it felt like the minute we missed one and they got the lead, I was like, crap, now it's over. Like, we were going back and forth trading baskets, but I think Aaron Nesmith had some really nice plays in that fourth quarter to kind of give the Pacers the offensive spark that they needed as well. So, yeah, definitely the X factor for me. And then I want to say one player we did not talk about really was Obi Toppin in this game. Obi Toppin did not have a great game, was not very effective on the glass, didn't really put the ball in the basket a lot, but he did have 2 timely threes that were kind of like, wow, that was not a great shot, but he made it. And then he also had like a terrible air ball that he shot way over the basket on the corner. It was the left corner. So, not the greatest Obi Toppin game, only played 25 minutes in this one. Aaron Nesmith ended up playing more than him at the 4. But I just thought Obi Toppin had some big buckets when they needed them and doesn't deserve to be left out of the conversation since we pretty much talked about everybody else.
No, he doesn't. But also, welcome back, buddy. Great to have you back.
Yes.
We need you. So, great performance, buddy. Wanted to give you that last shout out. I know we gave him earlier.
Plus 29.
He deserved another one.
Plus 29, Miles Turner, plus 22, Tyrese Haliburton, plus 15. People can just pump the brakes on saying Turner's not the right fit for this team because they don't like his rebound numbers. He got you 10 rebounds. He got you an assist. He got you a steal. He got you a block. He had 0 turnovers. Just relax. Only got 1 foul in this game, too. 17 points. I mean, pretty good, solid Miles game for me.
Someone tweeted at me and said, Miles Turner must be the worst rebounding center in the NBA. And I was like, do I just mute this guy or what did I do?
You just called out, man.
It's just, I don't even remember what his name was. It was just like people overreact like crazy. Turner finishes the game with 17 and 10. Like, it's like, come on, cut him a break or you're making it seem like the guy grabbed 1 rebound. So it's like, everybody, the sky's not falling. The Pacers won. They beat the Celtics. All right, let's enjoy this. Let's not go crazy and say we got to trade this guy, get this guy out of town, whatever it is. Tonight was an awesome win.
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted out like in the first half, like the Pacers were getting obliterated on the boards, like 25-15 at one point. People were like, Miles Turner is the worst defensive center in the league, can't rebound the basketball. So I just quote tweeted it and said he's been a +8 in the game tonight. So it's not a Turner thing, it's a team thing. And yeah, Turner could be more assertive, but you talked about it. Bruce Brown had 8, Haliburton had 10, Miles had 10. That's really solid. Mathurin ended up getting 5. That's good for his position. So you live with the results, you live with the rebounds, and you deal with it. I think they made the most of it, even though they probably ended up getting beat on that side of the ball or side of the category, whatever. In that category, they got beat, is what I'm trying to say. And I give the Pacers credit for being able to win this one. But Facci, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Where can people find us out on social media?
Absolutely. So you can find us on Twitter at PacersPod STP. You can find Alex on Twitter at AlexGoldenNBA. I can be found on Twitter at _FACCI. You can find us on Instagram at PacersPod STP. You could find us on Facebook at Setting the Pace. You can find us on TikTok at Setting the Pace. And Alex, tell them where they can check us out on YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can go to youtube.com/Setting the Pace Pacers podcast, where we will have this video up for you. And if you missed it, we did recap the Heat win on Saturday night. And we also had a preview of this game where me and Facci both rightly predicted the Pacers were going to get the victory. it was definitely a heart pick, but it was also one of those things that just had a weird feeling to it. It felt like the Pacers were destined to win this game from my perspective, and I'm sure from Facci's perspective too. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you're excited that the Pacers are packing their bags and they're heading to Vegas, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers!